Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Urban Legends video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another video here. This one actually having to do with something that I came across as I was looking at one of your suggestions. It's happened in the past where when I'm looking at one of your particular entries, I come across yet another item that nobody suggested, but in looking at this info, it seems so fascinating, so interesting to share that I thought I would go ahead and list it for everyone here. So this one also I want to talk about is because it kind of relates to a video I did a couple years back involving the Black Stickman. I'll include the link for it below if you haven't had a chance to see it, but it's very interesting to see and wonder if these are the same things or if these are different versions of the same things. Kind of like how, a snake is a snake in two different parts of the world, but one is completely different from the other. And it also, in this case, it has to do with Native Americans, so that makes it also very fascinating. And so it has to do with this. They're known as the Stick Indians, and they seem to be an urban legend, particularly within the world of Native American legends. So let's go ahead, let's talk about all the info associated with this thing, whatever it is. So what are these Stick Indians? Well, if you believe the stories tied to them, they're apparently a pretty dangerous set of entities, whatever they are, monsters, humans, even spirits. There's the idea that several instances they could be one or the other, and in other cases even cryptids, because people apparently associate these things with Sasquatch and with Bigfoots. So very interesting on that, into the full gamut, in other words, of what these things can represent. That's how mysterious they are. But one thing is common: they are very malevolent, they are extremely dangerous. These are not things that you want to come across. That's why this urban legend involving these Stick Indians is so prominent within certain tribes, certain regions of Native Americans. The way they're described too, it seems like there's a huge listing of variation of how they look like. I did find some common theme, and it has to do with this. If people see these stick people, and the reason why they're called stick people particularly is because they are very skeletal looking, very skinny. Not like that they're actually skeletons, but that they have a very, very, very emaciated look. That just adds to the creepiness factor of them. And then another common theme seems to be that they are smaller in size, almost like dwarf sized, but not around that range either. They just seem to be something that stands out when it comes to their height. Not necessarily human size, but then again not too small as well. And with regards to how other people interpret them or how they've seen them, sometimes they look like, it's like I was saying earlier, like Bigfoot-like or animal-like as well, because apparently these Native American Stick Indians, they seem to have the notion of hiding themselves within carcasses. Like they'll take a carcass of a bear, or they'll take the carcass of any other kind of wood or forest type animal, and then they'll use that as their way of moving across these plains or these forests, kind of like in a hiding in plain fashion type way. So that way they don't stand out, but at the same time they're getting from one place to another. Either way, though, you do not want to absolutely come across these things, because they've been known to be very dangerous to people. So much so that even Native Americans don't call these things by their real name. Apparently, if you do so, you do entice these things to come towards you. So luckily, I haven't come across their names and looking at some of the articles, because I kind of hate when that happens. But in this case, Native Americans just simply refer to them as Stick Indians. That's how they do so. And then in that fashion, they can talk about them without necessarily talking using their direct name. So again, if you want to find it, I'm sure their names are out there somewhere in this internet world. But if you do so, be cautious, because again, the notion is if you talk about those names and you keep inciting those names, then you have a chance essentially of inviting these spirits, because if they truly are, in this case, spirits, they are drawn by the presence of you talking about their real name. But that's how dangerous they are. Other things involving them being pretty dangerous is they've been known to eat people. Like they are absolutely hunters of people. Like they will eat them outright. They've been known to paralyze people, hypnotize people. They've been known to drive people insane as well. And it seems like it's just, for lack of a better word, for fun. Like this is not something that they're doing to survive or necessarily to like as an act of vengeance or revenge, justice. No, in this case, they're just simply looking for anyone that comes across their land by accident or purposely. And in some cases, they do it themselves purposely because they've been known to lead people directly to them. Here's one way that you'll know you're in the presence of these stick Indians, according to these urban legends, and that's the idea that if you are in this case, just any forest, USA, whatever is the case, you're walking around, you know you're alone, but then at the same time you start hearing like whistling, a very distinct whistling happening somewhere in the background, or something involving laughter, or in some cases people describe like all of a sudden they hear like a group of people, what sounds like a group of people somewhere nearby. Maybe they're having a campfire, maybe they're having a small party, whatever is the case, but from one minute when you're hearing just nothing, just pure silence in terms of just the usual sounds of the forest, and then all of a sudden you're hearing like a party nearby, that's when you know you're close to the presence of these stick Indians, because they are in turn trying to lure you towards them. And it's very easy for them to do so if you're more inclined to pay attention to what they think you would do so. So let's say if you're into the party mode and they just simply just turn on the party music or the party sound, and then they'll try to catch people that way. Or if you're more inclined to, let's say, be interested if you hear a whistle somewhere in the background, then they'll whistle, and then that way they can try to get you to get there too. Their main targets also seem to be children, because the way the Native Americans described it is children that are playing out near forests are much more easier to lure when it comes to these sounds that these stick Indians can make. So that's why parents are in this case very cautious and make sure that they tell them of the legends of these stick Indians, so that way they know if they hear any of these things to stay far away. Like, in other words, to not follow them. Luckily, it seems like these stick Indians cannot, I guess, hunt on their own. It seems like they can't just run about outside the forest and grab people, something along those lines. But who knows? Because considering how dangerous they are, they may not need to if they just simply can lure people straight to them, especially if the whole purpose again is to get people hopelessly lost in the forest and then panic and then run towards the closest thing they see as salvation. Again, in this case, mimicking the sound of a group of people nearby, and then that's it. The lost person runs into them, and then that's when they become food for these stick people. But that's pretty much it. Not much other info to share in terms of what they do, other than the fact that again, nothing has been necessarily captured on footage, nothing recorded. They're still considered to a very taboo subject with regards to them being talked in public amongst tribes, even with regards to especially saying their true names, but instead talking about them just as Native American stick people. But if I did find this one link, and I'll post it below, it's Reddit, and in it describes people who were stating what they believe were encounters with these Native American stick people. So if that's the case, and and I was reading some of this information about these stick Indians, it's fascinating. I mean, this is people posting what their real experience is, and I'm sure that there's many more out there, so I'll include the link so that way you have a chance to see it for yourself. But again, that is all the info tied to these stick Indians. Anybody within a Native American tribe, anybody that knows someone or maybe is a descendant, whatever is the case, if you know more information about this, please post those comments. That'd be interesting to hear. Again, not really recommended to try to find these things yourself, but if you happen to know more info, like friend of a friend type stuff, that'd be really great to share with everyone too. So, but yeah, this stuff definitely stood out when I was looking up this information. Yet another thing you don't want to come across because of how dangerous these things can be. That scared me too whenever I was reading that just necessarily bringing up their names does something along those lines. That's what something that definitely stood out too. So, all right, everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.